Hi everyone, my name is Matt from Forefront and welcome to this virtual panel titled Redefining Customer Service in a Hybrid World. So we've received a great response with over 100 senior customer leaders registered to watch live, which is great news. So a big welcome to everyone. But before I hand you over to our expert panel, I just wanted to highlight that we're trying to make this discussion as interactive as possible. So you'll notice on the screen on your right-hand side that you have the ability to send in questions, vote on questions, and answer live polls. So please get involved, as it really does add to the conversation, and our moderator will be feeding it back to the panel. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce you to our panel. So we have Deanne Martin, who's the Head of Customer Service at Seek. We have Kristy Canning, who's the Head of Contact Centre Operations at NIB Health Funds. We have Jennifer Shailer, who's the Head of Customer Experience at Australian Red Cross, and moderated by Jason MacBride, who's ANZ Manager at Poly. So thanks everyone. Now over to you, Jason.
Jason, we can't hear you.
I think you're on mute, buddy.
And I was so confident I took myself off mute too. Wow. And I thought I got off to such a great start. All right, let's kick that off again. Good morning, everyone. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for putting this virtual panel together. We are delighted to be here. Good morning to everyone, and thank you for making time to join our panel discussion on redefining customer service in a hybrid world. 2020 has been a year that call centers proved to be critical for doing business. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the customer center has acted as a conduit, enabling organizations to maintain communication with customers, and unsurprisingly, the quality of these interactions is more important than ever. Our goals today, we have two. First, to learn from industry peers on how they are creating resilient customer service teams in a hybrid workplace, and two, to help you gain insights on how to ensure well-being for employees while also delivering a consistent level of customer experience. I am proud and excited to have three industry veterans who will be sharing their viewpoints. Let's try to make this as interactive as possible. As Matt said, please send through your questions in the chat window. I'll briefly introduce myself and give a short overview on Poly, and then hand over to the panel to introduce themselves. My name is Jason MacBride, and first and foremost, I'm a people manager. I say that because much of the discussion today revolves around people, their productivity, and their well-being, particularly with how the pandemic has changed our normal over the past 10 months. Secondly, I manage the sales business across Australia and New Zealand for Poly. Poly, formerly Plantronics and Polycom, is a global communications company that empowers meaningful human collaboration and connection. At Poly, we believe work isn't a place, it is what you do. I'd like to share a quick story around our heritage. Many of you may be familiar with the names Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. In 1969, they were the first people to step onto the moon. And those famous words spoken, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, were transmitted over a Plantronics headset. Polycom is synonymous with audio conferencing, and the Star phone is still in operation today. It actually surprises me how many of these, I won't say aged, let's call them mature units, are still in production right now. They just seem to keep working. As one company, now known as Poly, we combine legendary audio experience and powerful video and conferencing capabilities to overcome distraction, complexity, and distance to make communication in and out of the workplace challenging. Now let me head over to the panelists to introduce themselves. I believe in alphabetical order is the fairest. Deanne, Jennifer, and Kristy, over to you, Deanne.
Hi, so I look after customer service for Seek, and our primary purpose is to really match candidates with the best roles possible and to support their career journey by giving them lots of tools and opportunities to actually land their career or job. So we have about 70 heads in the customer experience space, And we are primarily a digital online service. So the type of inquiries that we receive are really more specifically around COVID and helping people look for jobs, and hire is attracting candidates to jobs.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jen. I am currently the Head of Customer Experience at Australian Red Cross. I'm dialing in from the Hunter Valley today, which is the lands of the Wanneroo people. I'm inspired every day to work for such an incredible humanitarian organisation that pushes the boundaries on new technologies to solve big social problems. Our work always has a human-centred design at the heart of everything we do. I'm proud that I work for such an efficient organisation that cares about that donor dollar. Our call centre are all in Melbourne, so all working virtually for the first time this year, and lots of things to share with you over the next, how long are we here for? An hour? Half an hour? Thank you.
Thanks. I think we all balked at that veteran comment, but I'm kind of going, I've been in the industry now for 20 years, so if that's not a veteran, I'm not sure what is. So hi everyone, I'm Kristy. I'm the current head of customer care, which is the contact centres across NIB. So for those of you who don't know what or who NIB is, we're a health partner where we provide health insurance to residents across Australia, students and workers coming into Australia and overseas, as well as some corporate businesses. So I've been at NIB for a couple of years now, and we're very much looking at shifting from being a payer to a healthcare partner, which is a really exciting time in the industry, especially with COVID, where financial strings and health insurance is seen as a luxury purchase product. So it's a really exciting time for us, and we've just recently consolidated our contact centres across NIB. So I have a team of close to 400, and we're based all around Australia, as well as in the Philippines, and we've also got teams in Australia and Cork as well.
Wonderful. Thank you all for the introductions and for joining me today. Let's get on to our three key areas: workspace and technology, making a real connection, and empowering CSRs. Let's start with technology first. For the panel, in this area of hybrid work, have you been required to adopt new technology to monitor and manage your distributed team? And if so, what have you implemented and how has this improved your working?
I'll kick off if everyone's okay with that. Yeah, look, I think the short answer is yes, definitely. Like everyone, mobilising an entire business wasn't without its challenges. And, we certainly competed against each other to get equipment. I know we had to raid every JB and Telstra shop within 100k radius. So sorry if I tackled anyone for some dongles. Look, I think work from home has certainly challenged the mindset of that successful performance is seeing performance. If someone wasn't visible and you couldn't see them working, were they actually working? And I think we all faced that during this pandemic. It certainly created some healthy discussions around the value add and output measures, and managing contact centres. We've got measures for measures. So, for me, I just needed some technology to help paint the productivity story for the rest of the business. And I think, that the technology that we're really focused on was about shifting our coaching strategies. So we've got a coaching framework that we call LEAP. It's a leadership strategy to drive performance via core frameworks, coaching strategies, and coach-to-coach development discussions. So which is all designed to drive performance expectations and CX. So it needed tech to actually help us adapt to be able to do this. So there was a rush on online tool enhancements. So Zoom, where it's kind of the Zoom versus Teams at the moment. So we utilize Zoom, and it was actually trying to deep dive and understanding all the capability of Zoom. So for those of you that haven't come across the breakout rooms, it's actually a great tool to be able to a breakout into smaller working groups, especially if you've got 400 people like me. You can't necessarily have everyone asking questions at the same time. So Zoom breakout rooms. We've also got Workplace, which is a Facebook platform for work. And this was an amazing collaboration tool where, you know, we were able to share successes, we were able to communicate, we were able to create different rooms for people to be able to join. I think there's a pet chat where people get to share pictures of their pets. It was a great collaboration tool, and Menti has certainly been life-changing in my space as well.
Thank you,
Kristy.
I might jump in there.
Oh no, go.
So we certainly adopted more tools that enable us to collaborate together. So we use Miro, which is an online visualization tool, which really helped us harness keeping alive the creativity from teams to solve problems for the organisation. And the reason why that's important for us is that we consider CS as a talent pool for the organisation. So we need them to be engaged in the broader problems than just what's occurring in the CS space. So Miro, definitely a game changer that we invested in, and enabling the teams to collaborate across the organisation and with customers. And the other one for us, very similar, Slack integration for us has been a way of replacing the real-time physical double-jacking in the centres to provide a platform that enables us to share live chat, conversion to text, sending that across the organisation, obviously call journey with calls and customer sentiment. We're using that platform to share out with product teams or with marketing, customer sentiment in real time, rather than report, you know, monthly on what customer sentiment might look like. So those two tools have absolutely enabled us to replace the physical double-jacking and keep alive our creative brainstorming effort.
Thanks, Deanne.
So I'm going to go super basic here, and I'm going to say webcams. You know, our team of 25, nowhere near your number, Kristy, but they're used to sitting next to each other. So when they had to go to their homes and take their computers with them, they didn't have webcams. So we got the webcams. So, I mean, you guys know call centers, their breaks are very structured. It meant that when a bunch of them go on a break, they join a virtual coffee break together. And I feel like that's about as simple as we got. Yes, we're using Teams too, and we're using that as a knowledge base, as opposed to the other things that we're using Miro as well. But I feel like for us, the webcam was the big changer.
Thanks, Jen. I think that's actually, you're absolutely not alone there. And from a technology perspective, webcams, cameras are one of the things that Poly manufacture. And so we saw a huge demand spike as soon as COVID hit, in terms of not just the webcams, but also our headsets, to make sure that people have got the right device to provide the right experience while working from home. And I really like that idea of having the team do their breaks on a team call together. And I think that kind of speaks to Richard's question that he just raised in the questions around promoting well-being and keeping the teams together. And I think throughout the conversation today, Richard will continue to give you some more insight on that, because we've got a topic specifically on well-being. So let me ask one more question for you guys. The voice of the customer is also critical. How has technology helped you evaluate and understand this? Does anyone want to take that one?
Yeah, I can jump in. You know, within our customer service area is also customer experience. So voice of customer is like the core of what we do. We have a data science team that are actually starting to monitor that voice sentiment of the phone. We're very quite manual with that at the moment. But I feel like it's been such a great year for focus groups and one-on-one interviews. People have said yes to these more than what we've ever had before. So we've been able to get lots of feedback through surveys, focus groups, one-on-ones, more than what we ever really have had before. So I think it's great. We use AI chatbot for an SMS for our existing customers as a way for them to talk to us as well. And it's got this really great way of moving people through to an agent very quickly when we need it. So people are able to contact us in a different way, and yeah, we try to make that as human as possible. A little bit more advanced than webcams, but still as important.
I think specifically with COVID, we realised that the human connection and the actual calling customers old-fashioned dialing numbers actually gave us a lot more rich in content around what we needed to hear from candidates about how they were feeling and how we could help. So we actually reverted back to a manual process to try and get those insights out, as well as using analytics from our platform and providing that with market to help understand how we could assist in making decisions to either help hirers or candidates. But certainly a lot more manual outbound work, because we did see a drop off of work through COVID, and it got our teams back to the basics of human connection, which has been a lovely change from using our normal CRM dialers.
Definitely. I mean, to Jen's point, voice of the customer is all about what we're trying to achieve and understand, and we've all got different ways of doing that. There's a lot of manual insights, and nothing really will replace the frontline insight around what they're hearing and seeing. So we leverage a lot of that through various forums. We encourage our people to raise where the hot points are. We do manual processes once a year where we get in and understand where the pain points are for members. But we've recently started moving into speech analytics, which is going to revolutionise the way we do this. So every time we launch a new product or put in a significant change, we can run speech analytics over the calls and actually understand where the pain points are before they turn into a complaint or an ex gratia. So we're early in our journey with speech analytics. We're currently doing a pilot with one of our lines of business, and the insights that we've got so far are just are absolutely amazing. Will completely change the way we look at voice of a customer.
Thank you, guys. You guys have mentioned a whole bunch of different technologies there, which is really good, and hopefully that gives our participants some food for thought as they consider what to do in their environment. Let's move on to our second topic, being making a real connection. This topic is interesting because we often focus on the connection with our customers, and I think it's equally important to ensure that we have focus on our own team. And employees' health and well-being has become of much greater concern, and the attention to meeting fatigue, physical fitness, and mental stability has also become far more prevalent during the pandemic. What is your approach or tips to support your team?
We're all going to fight for this one, aren't we?
Yeah, you go first, Kristy. It's your turn to go first.
So look, I'll talk about the work from home space. So we at NIB used to have a work from home program. It was a number of years ago, so network connections and things didn't support that. So moving work from home, my team absolutely loved it, and 90% of them have requested flexibility to continue to be able to work in this type of fashion. What my biggest concern is, for those of you who've heard the term, the 3-quarter syndrome of remote working. So what that is basically 9 months into a 12-month period, you'll start to see staff showing increased absenteeism, mental health issues will start popping up. There'll be avoidance around attending meetings or coming into the office, and performance will start to decline. So I was very conscious of previous programs that I've worked in. It's something that's quite prevalent in the work from home industry. So I actually worked with our communications team to embed a wellbeing communication plan that actually included forums to access support, exercise programs, wellbeing, get involved activities. We also did the lunch chat rooms as well. And I recommend a mental health resilience program to Richard's question earlier. If you don't have the internal resources, then we utilised a company called Mindset Psychology, which provided really a personalised program for my team to create awareness, coping strategies and tools that actually really help staff manage what to do when they started to feel overwhelmed and who to reach out to. And it also equipped my leaders to actually manage this type of mental health fatigue as well.
Yeah, big one for us. Absolutely. The organisation has provided everybody with, excuse me, weekly wellness check-ins, tips on tricks and working from home. We have regular meditation. For the call centre guys, it's been it has been one of the toughest years. For them, they're used to people ringing and saying how much they love Red Cross, but this year, we've taken the brunt of some media backlash, and then through COVID, certainly those people who are on temporary visas have been calling for help, and sometimes in some very desperate situations. So the team's ability to debrief takes a lot longer than what it did before, because you can't just turn to the next person and say, that was tough, I need to talk this through. That they actually have to pick up the phone. I mean, we don't pick up the phone like that anymore, but it takes a little bit longer to debrief in that way. It's like when I told my daughter to wind the window down the other day. She's like, what? So for them to separate that feeling of living at work, they share their tips regularly. And I think two of my favorite things that they've shared is that some of them have to get dressed in the morning and leave the house, walk around the block. Some just walk across the street and back again, come back into the house and sit at their desk, do their work. And then at the end of the day, do the same thing, which I think is so cute. Some of them actually need to move their desk where possible, just a foot every week. So there's a different part of the wall that they're looking at. But what is so important is that we share these tips, and it makes it real and okay to be feeling in these weird ways, throw a sheet over your computer at the end of the day and things like that. But the sharing and knowing when you're not having a great day and being able to talk that through is so important and really encouraged.
Probably a couple of things I'd like to share, more so from a leadership perspective, and really enabling leaders not to rescue, but to provide the right boundaries to support team members who are really challenged with some really difficult calls and circumstances. It's the mental health certification. It's the equivalent to a mental health first aid certification. It was $600. I think you can get subsidy from government to do that. I found that incredibly useful. It enables you to put process into how to respond and how to assess and how to ensure that you're protecting your team members as well as leaders through the right assessment of what needs to be done. We've had a massive increase of self-harm within our contact centres, and we were really challenged with how to help our people manage that. So one of the other things we did is we created a little I heart emoji. We created an I heart category so that if somebody has taken a difficult call or an email, we start from a place of trust, and they use that to indicate to leaders and to their teammates that they need some time out and that they need debriefing. And there's a very specific role that each leader plays when they see that indication in the phone system and in Slack. So real-time debriefing and giving people the trust that they need the space to cope, but also giving the leaders the techniques through this mental health certification definitely enabled us to do a better job. We start things like gratitude Slack channels. Every day we start with a gratitude piece where there's a lot of fun and activity and sharing across the organisation, not just in CS. So we've found that we're actually collaborating with mental health across all teams now, rather than just trying to solve the problem within the CS space, and that's really working well for us. We've also got a number of EAP, employee assistant programs in place, and access in terms of number of sessions has also increased significantly so that we can get the right professional support in.
Thank you. Thank you all. Some really great tips. Like Kristy, a number of my team are Victorian based, and it has been interesting to watch how people cope at different points and require a little bit extra space, extra time, extra support, and how people are getting through their day-to-day tasks and making sure that they get the right support. Deanne, to your point, I think it's also really important to remember that that managers and above are not necessarily equipped, right? They're not experienced to take the burden of trying to fix this on their own shoulders, and therefore having programs in place and having the ability to outsource or outreach and get support is absolutely critical. And that's one of the big things that we've shared internally is our program and how to leverage it, how to access it, and make sure that we're supporting the team appropriately. And then similarly, I think it is also great to get together for coffee catch-ups, or we run a number of those, but also we do a fortnightly call where it's specifically not to talk about work. It is specifically just to be social, right? And it's to talk about the kids or the animals or where you are in the world and what holidays you're planning. Although for the Victorian team, that's not always a great topic at the moment, but their restrictions are easing, which is great. So just that ability to remain connected becomes so important. And I think you guys all touched on that throughout the conversation. So some really great things to share. Thank you, guys. From a meaningful connections, was there anything else that you guys wanted to add from a CS perspective before we move on to the next topic? Are you guys all good? Yep. All right, let's move on to our third topic, being empowering CSRs. And I recently heard someone say that culture is what you do when nobody's watching. And I think that that's true, because our actions speak how we treat each other, and also how we engage with our peers and our customers. And Salesforce.com research has shown that staff are 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered to do their best work when their voices are heard. So culture, recognition, they play such a key role in the contact center space. In terms of retention and developing staff, how are you guys handling that? And any tips for the audience today? No one wants to go first.
I can jump in. I probably have quite an unusual, different perspective on this. I don't think it's about incentives and reward. I think it's about attracting talent that becomes the talent pool for the organisation. So, I have a 40% attrition rate from CS into other roles in the organisation, and that becomes the attraction. That becomes the career-defining decision to come into a frontline role and actually take what I consider to be the engine room of the organisation forward, including the voice of the customer. So if you think of the teams as talent pools, if you think of career plans and development and opportunities in your frontline space, then for us, that really does enable the voice of the customer to carry forward and gives us strength in the type of people that we're attracting, and we move away from things like reward and recognition and incentives to support that. And that is about getting the right people in the door, which is another topic altogether.
I don't want to say you're not unique, Deanne, because I'm sure you are, but that was my answer as well.
Right.
The call center for us is the gateway into other positions. And even this year, we've had 2 people move to the retail team, and our support with vulnerable migrants this year has really increased, and we were able to set up another call center and move some people over there to be caseworkers, and that's what they've always wanted to do. So yeah, it's absolutely that gateway. It means that we can keep those high performers and start to get them exposure through other parts of the business. And I mean, Red Cross, you know, we do so much. And actually I have to go back and say it would be irresponsible of me to say that Red Cross also provides mental health first aid and mental health matters courses. So please check those out on the website. I think this time has also allowed us to keep our high performers. For those who've maybe wanted to move interstate or out of town, or, you know, it means that we can hire from a wider pool, but it also means that we can keep those who were thinking they might have to resign just because they wanted to move to Bendigo. I just made that up. I don't know where that name came from. But it really means that, you know, we're able to keep them and they can work from home for a lot longer. So it's, yeah, really improved the way we do things.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we are all the same. I've got a 35% attrition rate to internal teams. So I wanted to share an example of what we're focusing on at the moment. With so many industries now having to, you know, fundamentally shift the way we operate, a lot of us are exploring that flexibility of future ways of working and having a blended approach around work from home and the office. And so that raises a risk of losing talent, because it's easier to work anywhere in Australia or anywhere in the world now. So it opens up a lot more opportunity for our people. So and this will help answer Sam's question around dealing with institutionalisation. And what we do now is we have career pathways for our team. So to Deanne's point, very much looking for building talent. And how do I keep the talent within the contact centre? So while I want to definitely be a feeder for the rest of the business, if we've identified that somebody's a great leader or great in regards to complaints or quality, how do we path them in that direction, create opportunity within the contact centre as well? So we have a number of different development opportunity programs, and we've developed online training as well. So people that want to become a leader in the future can actually access information to help expose them to that. And it's self-paced too. So it sort of weeds out the people that really want it versus the people that, you know, want to be led through it as well. And it's been a great program. We've put 30 leaders through the program last year, and every single one of them have been able to get a leadership opportunity within the business, majority of them through my department, which was good news. And now we're currently looking at building a manager development pool and looking at designing some courses to help shift that gap between moving from a leader, which you're looking at team and performance, to actually moving into a manager role, which is driving strategy. And that's a gap that we're facing at the moment. So that's certainly helping to create, I suppose, that pathway for staff, but also wanting them to stay within the businesses.
Thank you. And thank you for helping answer Sam's question as well. I think we might do William's question, because it speaks to that hiring and considerations. Has your hiring profile considerations changed with working from home? How are you guys tackling the interviewing side?
More Zoom. So look, it is a different approach. I mean, I'm interviewing people in South Australia for a role that I have at the moment, which never would have considered previously. And Zoom is definitely a tool that we're doing online interviews. The onboarding process is a bit different. So, you know, you'll hire somebody, you bring them in, and then you usually spend, you know, a couple of days with them, or you put them in training where they can meet a whole lot of different people. So that's been quite different, and especially for contact center agents, where you would, you know, want them to embed themselves into that culture quite early. They're booking a time to come in and get a laptop from IT. And then they're going home and having a meeting with their new manager or new leader. So we have had to adapt a lot of that face-to-face onboarding material to move that to online training. The feedback from the initial few groups that we've put through has been really positive. There has been some opportunity there to tweak that to make sure that there's more interaction and more one-on-one learning. But overall, it's progressing quite well.
Thanks, Kristy. Jen, Deanne, did you guys want to add anything to the hiring interview?
No, I don't think there's much different to what we're doing with Kristy. I mean, certainly, like I said, we've got 25 compared to, was it 400, Kristy, you said? I think it's a bit different. I mean, we allow people the option to come in to the office to do their training if they prefer. Also, we can do it online. Our interviewing process, yeah, it's virtual, but we're still looking for the same kind of people. Empathy is the number one thing that we need from people. And actually, our most recent hires have been non-call center people. So maybe check in with me in a month and see how that's going.
Yeah, I'd probably just add that we've had the fortunate position of hiring in the last probably 3 months, 15 different people, and all of them affected by COVID. And so that's been a really great way of really undoing the competency matrix that you thought you landed to get the right people in, and really starting again and thinking differently about the experiences of people and what they can bring to the table. We have a 7-stage process for hiring for CS roles. We haven't changed any of that. The only thing we have done is we would normally have an audition process, which is about a 3-hour audition. We've moved that to virtual, and because we use Spark Hire, which is a way of actually sharing recruitment across the organisation, we've actually brought more people into the hiring process. So rather than relying on our HR teams and our leaders, every single person in CS has viewed the videos of applicants for CS and had a role to play in helping us assess that. And I think that's really enabled that. What that does for the teams is get them bought into who they want to work with and understand their own skill sets. So that's definitely been an advantage of using something like Spark Hire, where you can share readily applications online and get your teams to assess that, which has been a great experience for us.
That's great. Thanks, Deanne. We've had a couple of hires through COVID, and as each of you have touched on, the onboarding process, that integrating them into the culture, that how do you get them to start having a relationship with their colleagues is very different when you're not in a physical place together. And for a couple that have been hired from Melbourne, not only have they not been able to go into the office, right, but that connection across just via video, via Zoom, for example, plays a really different role from a mindset perspective. We do quite a few video calls with our colleagues around the world, and the last time I went to the US and got to meet a few of them for the first time in person, it was really interesting because one of the ladies that I met, she was like, "Oh wow, you're much taller than I thought." And I said, "Oh, that's funny because you are a little bit shorter than I thought." And it's even though, you know, we're all in the same height, we're sitting in front of the same laptop, and you get a feel for their personality and you get a feel for their energy, but there's still something about, you know, being in person. It's just a different experience. And so I think it'll be great when we start to get back into a world where we can do more together, more in person together, because there's no substitute for being in the same place at the same time with people. But I do believe that technology has absolutely helped us through this time, and the increase around video, the explosion that we've seen, that ability to work from home just demonstrates our resilience. It demonstrates our ability to just get in and continue getting the job done. And it has been great to see the entire team rally together and really continue to keep that culture that we had before driving, and also immerse the new people that have started into the business. So thank you guys very much. I know we're just a couple of minutes before wrapping up, but I did want to thank all of our panelists today, Deanne, Kristy, and Jennifer, for sharing their insights and giving us some new points for consideration. Before we wrap up, was there anything that you guys wanted to add kind of that we didn't raise today via questions or in the discussion? All good? All right.
No,
thank you. So I'd also like to thank the audience for participating and joining in the polls and the questions. Polly recently issued an ebook on call centers taking a new role. It lays out a 3-step plan for delivering great customer experience wherever your CSRs are working from. And we'll be sharing a copy of that ebook with you all via email. So please keep an eye out for that. Thank you very much. It was a great conversation. Really appreciate the panelists and everyone participating. I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you so much.
thank you for having us.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, guys.